Today in movie Unveiled we will listen to the explanation of Get Out. Movie begins with a black man named Andre strolling by himself through a quiet neighborhood before being approached by a suspicious-looking white car. He tries to turn around out of fear but quickly realizes that the car's door is open. However, the driver quickly knocks him down and drags him inside the car after appearing out of nowhere. The scene then shifts to the main character Chris Washington, a black photographer from Brooklyn, who is getting ready for a weekend trip to meet Rose Armitage, his white girlfriend, and her family in upstate New York. Before they leave, he is hesitant and asks Rose whether her family is racist, and she tells him that they are not aware of their interracial connection. As they are driving, Chris contacts his closest friend Rod to express his gratitude for taking care of his dog. As they cut the call, the two were startled when a deer unexpectedly struck their windshield. As they exit the car, they find the deer dying, therefore they decide to call the police. However, the police ask Chris to show his ID for no reason at all. This infuriated Rose and she reprimand the racist cop. Finally, they resume their journey towards Rose's home. Chris is greeted by Rose's parents, neurosurgeon Dean and psychotherapist Missy. While taking a tour of their home, as he witnesses weird behavior from the estate's black housekeeper Georgina and groundskeeper Walty. Despite their attempts to appear friendly and accommodating, Chris senses an underlying discomfort and curiosity directed towards him. Later that night, Chris, unable to sleep, decides to go out for a smoke. He suddenly finds the groundskeeper Walter running straight toward him, runs past him, and after turning around he saw Georgina on the window acting weird while looking at her own. After this strange encounter, when Chris comes inside, he finds Missy in the therapy room. That's when Missy coerces Chris into participating in a hypnotherapy session to help him get rid of his smoking habit. He admits in a trance that his mother was killed in a hit and run when he was a child, and that he feels responsible for her death because he took too long to call for help. He then walks into what Missy refers to as the sunken place. He thinks the encounter was a dream the following morning until Walter remembers their little conversation from the previous evening. He is happy to learn that the hypnosis was effective, though, as he no longer has an urge to smoke, and he tells about it to the Rose. The Armitage's yearly gathering, dozens of wealthy white people arrive. Chris experiences increasingly disturbing encounters with the Armitage family's friends and neighbors during their annual gathering. They compliment Chris' body as well as black athletes like Tiger Woods. Jim Hudson, an elderly art collector who has become blind, is particularly interested in Chris' photography abilities. He notices strange behavior, such as Georgina's teary-eyed moments of disconnection and Walter's oddly robotic demeanor. Chris also encounters another African-American guest, Logan King, who appears to be in a trance-like state and exhibits abnormal behavior. These encounters intensify Chris's growing unease, prompting him to confide in his best friend, Rod, who works as a TSA officer. Chris communicates the details to his pal, TSA agent Rod Williams. After that, Chris tries taking picture of Logan due to suspicion. However, his flash fires. Logan erupts into hysteria and yells at Chris to get out, as he tries to covertly take a photo of Logan. Logan is restrained by the others, and Dean later reports that he has an epileptic seizure. Chris advises Rose to leave the party while they are outside in the woods, to which she agrees. Meanwhile, Jim places the winning bid during a silent auction that the partygoers are holding while Chris serves as the prize in a bingo game. Later in the night, Chris sends the picture of Logan to Rod. Rod informs him that he is Andre Hayworth, a missing person from Brooklyn, is identified as Logan by Rod, and starts freaking out. Chris's fears escalate when he discovers a hidden room in the Armitage house containing photographs of Rose with numerous African American partners in the past, including Walter and Georgina. This revelation leads him to suspect that something sinister is happening. When he tries to leave, Rose and her family lock him inside. Jeremy is being attacked by Chris, but Missy uses a trigger she inserted during his hypnosis to knock him out by tapping her teacup. Chris wakes up in the basement, bound to a chair. Rose's grandfather Roman reveals in a video presentation how the family implants people's brains into other people's bodies to give them better physical qualities in a perverted version of immortality. Meanwhile, Rod tries to alert the authorities to his suspicions of a conspiracy, but they reject him. He calls Chris again, but phone was picked by Rose, who starts to manipulate Rod with her lies. Alive but helpless, Chris's awareness is still there in the sunken place. After that, a feed of Jim speaking to Chris on an intercom is connected to the video. Jim claims that despite the Armitage's preference for black targets, Chris' ethnicity is irrelevant to him. All he cares about is his vision. Missy hypnotizes Chris, appearing to put him to sleep. It is discovered that Chris prevented the hypnosis trigger by covering his ears with cotton stuffing taken from the chair when Jeremy arrives to pick Chris up for the procedure. Chris uses a bocce ball to knock Jeremy out before going to the operating room, where Dean is getting ready to execute the procedure to replace Jim with Chris. Chris stabs Dean in the back with a deer mount's antlers, knocking over a candle that starts a fire in the operating room, where Jim is under anesthesia. While Chris is being attacked by Missy in the kitchen, he stabs and kills her. When Jeremy attacks him again as he moves towards the door, Chris stabs and kills Jeremy as well before escaping in Jeremy's car. He bumps Georgina on the way out, rendering her unconscious. Georgina turns out to be Mary Ann, Rose's grandmother, who is possessed. He carries her into the car out of sorrow over his mother's passing, but as she wakes up, she turns on him and attacks. Georgina is killed in the ensuing collision as a result of the struggle. Chris is taken into custody by Rose, who is armed, along with Roman-possessed Walter. Chris neutralizes Roman with the help of his phone's flash, enabling Walter to recover control of his body. Before shooting himself, Walter uses Rose's firearm to shoot her in the stomach. Chris starts to choke Rose, but he is unable to succeed in killing her. Rose calls out for aid as police sirens approach. The driver, who turns out to be Rod, leaves the scene with Chris while Rose is bleeding out on the road. With the help of Rod, who uncovers the sinister truth behind the Armitage family, Chris manages to outsmart and eliminate his captors. In a thrilling climax, he confronts Rose and ultimately escapes the estate, leaving behind a trail of destruction. In the end, Get Out serves as a scathing critique of racism, white supremacy, and the exploitation of black bodies. Get Out challenged traditional horror tropes and offered a fresh perspective on the genre, emphasizing the real-life horrors of systemic racism and the insidious nature of cultural appropriation. Thank you for watching.